I don't know what's more confusing, learning astrology or just being a human. Moonday Musings is here to help with that. A weekly, no bullshit guide for the upcoming cosmic forecast and how you can actually use this in your real life. Hello, neighbor. Happy Monday. Happy Moonday. Welcome to the first Monday of February 2026, and welcome to another episode of Moonday Musings. If this is your first time here at That Witch podcast, let me be the first to welcome you. Hi, I'm Danny. I'm That Witch Next Door. I'm going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, your instructor, your spiritual bestie in all things modern, magic, and cosmic living. Moonday Musings is exactly the bridge between both of those realms. And we have quite a bit to get into today. I also want to try something a little bit new today. So for our regular listeners, hi, thanks for being here again. Love you. And also, I am excited about this new little update. I am really trying to keep the visual aspect of our podcast more and more in mind in the coming months and coming years. And so something that I want to do for my visual learners, my folks who are visual audio combo learners who really appreciates the two together, and for all of my kinesthetic or tactile learners, I have a link to the resource in the show notes below. And this is also something you could make yourself for free with materials of your own at home. Very easy and actually might be kind of a fun project. But drum roll, please. We are going to be utilizing an astrology deck on our first Moonday of the Month episodes when we are talking about the Cosmic Monthly Overview. I think that we're going to be utilizing this deck and other astrology decks or other astrology tools, visually speaking, in some of our other Moonday episodes as well. But we're going to keep that focus here first on the first Moonday of the month. The reason is because, and I'll go into the specific deck in a moment here, of course, but the reason is, number one, astrology is very complicated, not complicated, although it can be, but complex. It's very multi-layered. And sometimes keeping track of all of those layers or really understanding how they come together can be where our greatest challenges lie when we are studying astrology or we are moving into a cosmic living, cyclical living lifestyle. Or trying to incorporate more of those elements, I should say, into our lifestyle. So I am hoping that the visual representation helps and adds to our education, our understanding, maybe even getting more meaning out of our interpretation, out of astrology, utilizing visual tools like this. But I am here to help you, my friend. I am here to support you in any way. So if for any reason it really feels like this new way significantly takes away from our Moonday, the quality of our Moonday episodes, please don't hesitate to reach out and kindly let me know. And if you really, really like this and you find that it's adding even more value to Moonday, I would also super appreciate that feedback as well, just so I can kind of gauge. Bear in mind that we might, adjust. This is the first time we're going to be utilizing this tool, so there might be a little bit of an adjustment period and it might get smoother and smoother. It might start out plenty smooth, but either way, give me a little bit of wiggle room for some humanity here, some humanness, if you will. But I think that this could potentially be super duper helpful. Okay, on to the tool itself. Today we're going to be using the Numinous Astro Deck. I love the Numinous Astro Deck. I also want to say this is not the end-all be-all astrology deck. There are many out there, and they are all wonderful as well for their own individual reasons. Here are some of the reasons I love the Numinous deck. I'm probably a little biased because this was my first main astrology deck. I got this to utilize like flashcards. And I am somebody who can be quite a tactile learner. And I am also very, very visual. But I am somebody who really benefits off kind of bringing the visual and the tactile together and being able to physically handle a resource or a tool and then kind of make my own notes from it. But there are many ways that you can utilize a resource like this, regardless of your learning style, honestly, because it's such an easy to customize tool for yourself. So part of the reason I really like the Numinous, outside of my personal bias, is I like how simple it is. I have found that some other astrology decks, because they want to include like every single possible angle and layer of astrology possible, they can be really, really large and potentially a little bit overwhelming, especially for the beginner. I'm also somebody who likes to have like a nice, basic, solid foundation. But I like to work my own way through the details. I don't necessarily need every single detail read out to me or spelled out for me, like it can be in some of our super, super stacked astrology decks. That being said, that is kind of a personal preference, not really a bias, but it's more of a personal preference. So keep that in mind. If you're somebody who really likes, every nook and cranny to be covered and to have that all kind of available in the same deck and the same resource tool, you might like a deck that is a little bit more stacked than the Numinous deck. I do also like this deck because not only is it an excellent learning tool, it's actually intended to be also used as an oracle deck. So you can pull these cards, you can shuffle and pull these cards intuitively. And not only are you going to be learning about the different planets or zodiac signs, aspects or houses that you pull, because it gives you great information about the energy of each card, but it also gives you a bit of a reading and I believe a journal prompt, yes, for every card, which I also think can be a wonderful way to not only deepen your astrology practice, but to really exercise the intuition part of astrology. Now, for our intents and purposes here on Moonday, we're going to set the guidebook aside. We are not going to be utilizing the deck as an oracle deck. We're going to be using them as flashcards. But in the Numinous, just to give you an idea, there are 4 suits, if you will, 4 categories. You get all 12 zodiac signs. You also get all 12 astrological houses. You get all of the major planets, points, and even Chiron asteroid is in here. The asteroid goddesses are not in here, just so you know. So there's no Ceres, Pallas Athena, Vesta, or Juno if you work with the asteroid goddesses. And then you also get the major and a couple of the minor astrological aspects, which for any of my astrology students, this is one of the biggest game changers, especially if you are struggling with aspects and how it kind of brings planets and all these layers together. So on Moonday, the Cosmic Monthly Overview, we are going to be utilizing the zodiac sign cards and the planetary cards that correspond with any of our upcoming transits. And my hope in doing this is that it's this simple little addition, visual addition to what we already do here. And I'm hoping that it is just an additional support piece. And so again, please feel free to let me know. This is your neighborhood, my friend. You are a part of this community with me. And again, I want to make sure that I'm showing up in the most helpful way possible. So I'm hoping that this is going to be something that makes the process even easier to understand and breaks it down in an even simpler way and doesn't overload. But please feel free to let me know. Again, kindly feel free to let me know. Let's see here. So I've got this linked in the show notes below, but again, feel free to explore different astrology decks. And the best way to do this is to kind of Google search them on, I like to do this online, and you can even start on a website like Amazon so that you're seeing all of the like different choices for decks. And then you can Google them individually or search them individually if you don't use Google, if you use like an encrypted search engine, which is not a bad idea. And then you can purchase them directly from the sellers, by the way, if you don't want to purchase them through Amazon. There are going to be some good sources for looking these up besides Amazon. So going to spiritual publishers, a big one would be Llewellyn's, for example. Llewellyn's has a ton of witchy and astrological resources, and you can definitely purchase decks on there. I wouldn't be surprised if Labyrinthos online shop also has their own versions of astrology decks, but you can also kind of keep your eyes peeled whenever you're at local bookstores or you're at straight up Barnes and Noble, for example. But lots, not only lots, I would say more and more merchants, shop owners, all the way from mom and pop shops to very popular retail, are carrying more and more oracle tarot decks, and that includes astrology decks. So keep your eyes peeled. And if you ever find tools or decks that you think are just amazing, incredible, so helpful, please share those with me. We will add them to our neighborhood library master link list, which is this free resource on my website, thatwitchnextdoor.com, which is this ongoing growing list of amazing resources for the neighborhood. And I would be happy to add your resource on there as well. Alrighty, let's talk about February 2026. So first of all, today is February 2nd, if you're listening to this on Moonday. Yesterday was February 1st. In many witchy circles and pagan circles, also known as Imbolc, this halfway point, it's a lunar-based celebration, so it's based on the lunar movements. Unlike the solstices and our equinoxes, which are based on solar movements, the celebrations or marking points in between the solstices and equinoxes are based on the lunar calendar and the lunar movements. Imbolc is our halfway point in winter. We are halfway through winter from the winter solstice to the spring equinox. And it is very much represented by the coming and the growing of the light once again. Warmth increases. The physical amount of daytime that we have in the day increases. Sunrise is getting earlier, sunset is getting later. It is this reminder point that we've come this far, we can keep going. It's a wonderful kind of pausing place. Imbolc to me is this beautiful liminal space of a space to meet whatever needs that you have at this halfway point, so that you can foster whatever stores you need to get through the rest of what is meant to be symbolically kind of a challenging season. That doesn't mean, by the way, that winter sucks and winter is terrible, but it is symbolically, winter is known to be this time of harshness that we either get through and or learn to adapt through. If you listen to a couple of Moonday episodes back, it was our first Moonday of the year of 2026. And I actually kind of talk a little bit about the winter season. I have a great resource in there, a book about how to winter that has been really game changing for me. That episode might hit really well, or even just that one section about winter might hit really, really well now that we have just crossed over Imbolc. And it might be this motivating point to get the most out of the rest of your winter season as you prepare and head into the energy of spring and renewal and new beginnings. So bear all of that in mind. We are in bulk energy. And on top of that, yesterday, February 1st, was our full moon in Leo. So this is going to be our first point to take a look at these astrological layers here with our numinous deck. So first and foremost, I like to look at the planet or the celestial body itself, okay? So that means we would start with the moon layer, okay? What I love about the numinous deck is the visual artwork and the style of imagery that they use, because it only adds to its efficacy in being a learning tool, in my opinion. It's not just pretty and gorgeous. It has a lot of thought and a lot of intention in it. So our moon card shows these lunar associations. We've got this big full moon in the background. We can see all of these gorgeous details on that moon. We also have a big pearl or mother of pearl. And we have some gorgeous scallop shells. And there's also these light, fluffy clouds. The colors here are these pinks and creams. But I love that the full moon image that they use is not this big, bright white moon. It actually is emphasizing kind of a lot of the dark crevices, and it's this dark gray. And to me, this shows that contrast and that juxtaposition in the moon. We have the light and the bright and the soft. And we also have the cold and the rocky and the hard and the heavy. And this is the nature of the moon, which is our feelings. On each card, it also has lots of keywords as well. So the moon represents, our emotions, our feelings, like I said. It's also about embodiment, self-soothing, moods, mother archetype, I will say. I don't love assigning physical, literal mother only to the moon and strictly mutually exclusive to the moon. I do believe strongly that there are lots of mother archetype in the moon, which shows up in the realm of, again, meeting needs, emotional responsiveness, caregiving, soothing, all of those things. Now, Leo, according to the numinous, Leo the lover is going to be the energy that the full moon has been expressing itself in since yesterday. Leo is bold. We've got this bold figure in a slammin' fur coat outfit. I wish we could see the rest of the outfit, quite honestly. We've got big, beautiful pink roses. And in the background, oh, that's what I thought it was. Yep, in the background, we've got a disco ball. So fitting. And of course, we have a roaring lion, but I do want to point out that they did not choose the typical lion you're thinking of. There's no mane here, which means they chose a female lioness, which I just thought was really perfect for Leo energy. Leo is expressive and creative, a natural leader, so confident, or meant to learn about and come into confidence. So the moon being in our feelings and emotions, expressing itself through Leo, this is a full moon very associated with assisting us in stepping fully into ourselves, into our boldness. We can take the first step. We can stand bright, fully illuminated in the light, in the spotlight. We can be a leader. We do have leadership archetype within us that we can tap into. We have that lioness energy. If you want a fun way to learn about Leo energy, do some fun research on lions, lion prides, and the different roles of the lions. The male lion is, in some ways looked at as the leader. But the truth is that a lion pack which is called a pride, a lion pride is really heavily insanely dependent on the lionesses. And they are the main hunters. They are powerful creatures. Oh my God, the lioness is a powerful creature. And there's lioness energy in this full moon. I love it. This full moon portal is open until tonight. So we are in full moon portal energy. It entered in on Friday, I believe, and we hit full moon exact yesterday on Sunday the 1st. And that was at 5:09 p.m. Eastern last night. And this was at 13 degrees Leo, which just really emphasized that lunar energy, because the number 13 is considered to be a lunar number. And so this was like a very moony full moon in a very, very bold, confident way. Again, either instigating those feelings that we already feel like we can access, or presents us with opportunities to search for that within ourselves and to allow ourselves to tap into. So the moon is going to enter Virgo today on the 2nd at 10:21 p.m. Eastern time. And technically our full moon portal closes. But this is a very big, bright, bold full moon, like I said. And so the effects of this, the energy of this will probably be felt after the full moon portal technically closes, by the way. Now, let's see here. Beginning tomorrow, February 3rd, Uranus is stationing direct. So Uranus has been retrograde for some time. We got a little taste of Uranus entering into its chapter of Gemini last year in 2025. And then it stationed retrograde and it dipped all the way back into the sign of Taurus, where it's been throughout the rest of its retrograde cycle. And now it's stationed direct and it will begin moving forward again. And this means that we are officially in the final weeks of Uranus in Taurus energy. For a lot of us, for the rest of our lifetime. Uranus will not be in Taurus again for another 84 years. So, depending on how long we make it and how old we are right now. For a lot of us, this is going to be our last opportunity and experience in this life with Uranus in Taurus. This last stretch until April, especially depending on where this energy happens in your chart, this is going to kind of feel like a final review period. This is an opportunity to tie off any loose ends, and to close any old chapters kind of permanently. Thinking tower energy, thinking lightning bolt, striking it down and flattening it so we can move forward into new growth, and new beginnings. And so this being in the sign of Taurus, let's take a look. So Uranus here is, look at those lightning bolts, just like we talked about. Uranus here, you can see the big, you can see the big, beautiful Uranian body here in the background. And we also have flies. We have images of flies, the insect on here, which I think fits perfectly. If you've ever paid attention to the way a fly moves, its flight pattern, its movements, very, very Uranian, very erratic, very unpredictable in lots of ways. And yet they have incredible eyesight and incredible accuracy. So there is no mistake when the lightning strikes where it does. Uranus is associated with revolution and symbolizes breakthroughs, brainstorming, originality, humanitarianism, experimentation, freedom, diversity. When Uranus is expressing itself through Taurus, check out Taurus and check out Uranus. We have some pretty different energy here. Uranus has had and can have quite a difficult time in Taurus. Taurus is very methodical, very slow moving because it is very intentional about each step that it takes. It also has a lot of softness. It also can be very representative of slowing down, stopping, and smelling the roses. lots of these don't have a ton to do with the energy we just read about with Uranus, right? So Taurus, according to the numinous, is the bombshell. We can see a big, beautiful bull in the background. I love the makeup and the features on our figure here in the card. And look at their arms, kind of relaxing, very like, I am in no rush. I don't have anywhere to hurry up and go to. We have another rose along with, yep, that's what I thought, fuzzy peaches. So there's lots. Oh, and is this a rose? This might even be a peony. All my flower experts out there, this is either a rose or a peony, I think. But either way, we've got flowery softness. We have that softness of that peach. There's also a lot of abundance associated with juicy peaches, right? There's pleasure, there's indulgence in a peach. All of this very present in Taurus as well. So Uranus has been having to learn how to express itself through Taurus, and it's been bringing a lot of our attention to the way that we consume our resources, the way that we indulge ourselves, the pace that we move at, the steps that we take, and with what energy. And it is definitely Uranus being the revolutionary that it is definitely meant to strike down any of those Taurian activities, tasks that are not only no longer serving, but like really slowing down the growth, really slowing down the process. One of the shadow sides of Taurus can be getting a little bit too comfy and being a little bit too afraid and a little bit too avoidant of the new. My friends, with everything going on in our world, and especially the US right now, I want you to remember that this is a big reminder. We talked about it last year, and it is coming back strong in these final weeks until Uranus moves into Gemini, trust me. I want you to remember that a big piece of advice from Uranus here in Taurus is you need to work on getting comfortable being uncomfortable. If you are going to issue and usher in a new world, a new paradigm, if what must come down, you've got to be ready for the consequences of that. And I use the word consequences in a very, very emotionally neutral way. I mean it in the very blatant, blunt cause and effect way. Bringing in a new world, building a better society means losing some of the comforts, some of the conveniences, and lots of the indulgence, especially overindulgence of resources. Think about that and how you can contribute to that yourself, and also pay attention, I would say, to particularly wasteful energy users around you. That can be in the form of humans. That can be in the form of anything. Anything that just uses up and wastes energy and wastes resources. This is a good time for reworking that, updating, upgrading that, or cutting it out altogether. Alrighty. Whoops, we're hitting the mic. Okay. Let's see here. Now begins our conversation about Pisces. When we enter into February, we start entering into Pisces energy. And first up this month is going to be on Friday, February 6th this week, when Mercury, our communicator and communication, moves into the sign of Pisces. There's something very similar happening here with Mercury moving into Pisces, energy-wise, imagery-wise, that we can see on the cards. That's kind of similar to what we just talked about, if you notice, with Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is really associated with all this air, sharp, bold, lightning-striking energy, right? Taurus brought a lot of that slow, methodical softness. We see lots of parallels here in our Mercury in Pisces combination. Mercury is associated with, yes, our communication, but I want to expand that even more to our brain and mental capacity in general. Mercury is not just how we communicate, it's how we import and export information. It is so present in the information we take in and we learn and what we therefore do with it. It is a quick, efficient air sign, very associated. Look at the insects on here. We've got buzzing bees. We had buzzing flies with Uranus, and here with Mercury, we've got those buzzing bees. Now, when Mercury moves into Pisces, it is considered to be moving into the sign of its fall. If you are interested in learning about what it means when a planet moves into a sign of its fall or its detriment, when it moves into a sign of its domicile or its exaltation, these are all referring to the essential dignities. I have a nice, long, thorough bonus episode in That Witch School, which is available to any membership level, regardless of what you sign up for, all about the essential dignities. So if you are already one of my students in That Witch School and you haven't already checked out the essential dignities episode, make sure you do that. And also, if you have listened to it before, but it's been a while, not a terrible time for a refresher right now. Because this week we have Mercury moving into its sign that it's considered to be in its fall, which is Pisces. But we also have Venus moving into Pisces. And Venus is considered to be in the opposite. It's considered to be in its exaltation in Pisces. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But if you want even more in-depth on these essential dignities, I'm not going to be going into it on this particular episode, but I do have a bonus episode that covers that very, very thoroughly inside That Witch School, and the link for that to sign up is always in the show notes below. Okay, so when Mercury, our communication, moves into Pisces, the mystic, look at our dreamy, dreamy Pisces energy here. Look at our imaginative, flowing, colorful fish. What is that at the very bottom? Ooh, another flower, and I definitely don't know the name of it. I do recognize it, but I don't know the name of it. Maybe iris, but I could totally be wrong on that. Again, flower experts, I would love to know. We have the figure in the card is looking kind of down and away, which is very symbolic to me of the Pisces kind of dreamer, head always in the clouds, not necessarily making direct eye contact like our Taurus card and our Leo card. In this case, we're kind of looking away. There's this daydream, there's this imaginative aspect here. Here's the thing, all of those things I'm describing about Pisces are not necessarily associated with traditional verbal conversation and communication. Pisces is very, very, very known for its very efficient nonverbal communication. Pisces has that clear cognizance. Pisces energy just kind of has that inner knowing, and it gets it. It's very in tune with its intuition and its empathic abilities. Mercury relies very, very heavily on the brain, like the mental capacities and what's right in front of it and the information it can take in. Pisces is much, much more emotive, and Mercury isn't naturally a very emotive sign. It doesn't learn as much or as efficiently through emotion type learning like Pisces does. So Mercury is said to struggle a little bit here in Pisces. But here's what I would like to proposition for you. Do you think that maybe instead of looking at it as Mercury has just straight up poor communication in Pisces, what if we looked at this that communication needs to find other routes or other methods to be effective, and think about what nonverbal communication looks like, okay? So we've got Mercury entering Pisces this month, but put a pin in that because we'll be bringing Mercury back into this conversation in a little while here. Next, on February 10th, Tuesday, Venus will be moving into Pisces, like I mentioned. Venus The opposite of being considered to be in its fall, Venus is considered to be in its exaltation in Pisces. So let's look at the similarities of the imagery of these cards. So first of all, we definitely have roses. Now I'm very confident that these are roses, which makes sense. Roses are super associated with Venus energy. We've got those bright, fluffy pinks. The color scheme is even super similar between the two cards. And Pisces, being this very emotive sign, well, Venus is a planet that's very representative of our experiences in love and beauty and attraction, compassion, healing, dream. Oh, wait. That's Pisces. Although those would also apply to Venus. Beauty, harmony, charm, receiving, adoration, diplomacy, value, pleasure, indulgence, taste, and style. All of these are associated with Venus, and these are all themes very up Pisces' alley. So when Venus goes into the sign of Pisces, it doesn't have that hard of a time expressing itself. I want you to think, when you think of like Venus being exalted in Pisces and what that might look like, I want you to think about the times throughout your life that it's been the easiest to enjoy and experience the things and the people that we love. Not the times when it's hard. Sometimes who and what we love, there's challenges that come along with that. But I want you to think of those things and those people that are so, so easy to love. That is very Venus in Pisces energy. We are going to have Venus in Pisces until March 6th. Okay, so enjoy, soak that up. I really think that Venus in Pisces medicine is going to be particularly helpful this month into next month's energy. Now, we're going to come back to some Piscean conversation here in our timeline in just a little bit. But for now, we need to kind of move the conversation in quite a different direction, energetically speaking. And we are going to be talking about our pal, Aries, the zodiac sign of Aries, because this week on February 13th, Saturn is officially moving into Aries, and it will be moving into Aries and not going back into Pisces, first of all. Last month, in January, we also had the planet Neptune move into Aries. Neptune and Saturn have been right on top of each other for quite a while now, and they'll still be on top of each other for a little while as well. So let's break down the layers a little bit here. First, let's talk about Aries. Aries, according to the numinous, is considered the radical. Talk about boldness. We already talked a little bit about boldness in the Leo card. Check it out with our Aries card here. I love that the figure itself, they have those ram's horns coming out of their head. They're wearing cool fucking aviator sunglasses, which is like, I don't know, the universal symbol for being really awesome and badass. We've got lots of red, crimsons, oranges, maroons. This is very, very indicative of the fire energy of Aries. And we also have like a sports car, like race car, indicating high intensity and high speeds. So Aries, very associated with action and being active, self-starting, fierce, assertive, bossy, selfish, macho, impulsive, argumentative. Lots going on in the bold, bold realms when it comes to Aries energy. So, first of all, speaking of Saturn specifically, I would just like to applaud Pisces and Saturn babies. Your Saturn return is officially considered to be over. Now, you did it. You made it. I also want you to remember that planetary movements and energies, these things are more like seasons fading in and fading out. You will also more than definitely notice that the events that took place and transpired during your Saturn return the last couple of years will have ripple effects for often many months, many years, and even many lifetimes to come. So bear that in mind. Our Saturn return, especially post-Saturn return, is this incredible opportunity to move forward more experienced, more informed, and more wise for what you have gone through. I want you to really carry that forward, okay? Now, speaking to my Aries in Saturn folks, welcome. You're considered to be in your Saturn return. Also, y'all are fascinating to me. A really, really fascinating bunch. Especially to me, a Capricorn Saturn. I think those of us onlookers to the Aries and Saturn babies, the Saturn and Aries babies, I think that our vibe is intrigued and intimidated at the same time. This is absolutely a time that will mark experiences that come in hard and fast. Saturn already doesn't really play around, and Aries super doesn't fucking play around. It's going to add some raw cutting edge a little bit to the experiences, the Saturnian experiences. And what's a Saturnian experience? It is our earth experience. It's the things we have to physically go through and we have to physically learn from. That's why I have said it once before and I will say it many times again. Saturn is a data tracker. It looks back at the facts of what has happened, what has been experienced. Very physical, very tactile, right? This exists because it happened, kind of a thing. When we add that boldness of Aries the radical, those experiences can be a little more intense and they can even be a little bit more harsh. I do want to point out that this is still for a divine purpose. We are going to see a lot of people shit talk the living crap out of Aries over the coming years, especially because Saturn will be in Aries for a couple of years, but Neptune's going to be in Aries for like 14 years. So we're going to have a lot of Aries energy for a little while. And there is very obvious shadow sides to Aries: hot-headedness, rash thinking, acting without thinking at all, speaking without thinking at all, going head first, and hurting oneself or others in the process in an unnecessary way. And I want you to remember, Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. It begins, it sparks, it strikes that match of new beginnings. And sometimes that bold, radical energy is exactly what we frickin' need, okay? Very, very often, Aries is tasked with not fucking around and just doing the damn thing. Stop overthinking it and just start doing it. You can figure it out along the way. That type of energy. That is an energy I think that we can harness in a really positive way if we do it with intention on both our micro inner world level and our macro outer world, global collective level as well. Now, we're going to be talking about Neptune in Aries more and more because it's going to be in Aries for a while. I don't want to spend tons of our time doing that today, but do know that Neptune represents our connection to spirit and the spirit realms, like the realms of dreams, astral travel, our soul timeline, spiritual and ethereal exploration. And so while Neptune has been in Pisces, this has been kind of a slow, dreamy time. There's a very big reason why we saw lots of upswings and uptrends in spirituality, and kind of coming back into these really emotion-based and emotion-led spiritual practices. We are going to see kind of a radical, jarring shift as Neptune is in Aries. But I think that it's going to be, I think that there will be plenty of challenge with that, but I also think that the overall purpose of that is to really get us to unapologetically embody our own spiritual authenticity. Okay, now, just so you know, for timeline's sake, Saturn going to be in Aries until April 2028, okay? All right. Beginning this month, February 17th, it is eclipse season, my friend. The first eclipse season of 2026. The next one will happen in fall later on. We'll talk about that when we get there. For now, this first eclipse is going to be on February 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius for our annular solar eclipse in Aquarius. A solar eclipse occurs during the new moon. So this eclipse is our new moon in Aquarius. So if you are interested about like number one, what annular means, the path of totality or visibility. I linked a helpful tool and resource in the show notes below. Just a quick little page from timeanddate.com. Timeanddate.com. Don't sleep on that. Very helpful website, honestly, especially for eclipse maps and definitions and dates. Now, I can, spoiler alert, let you know that none of us are going to be able to see this eclipse unless you happen to live in Antarctica. And if you do, you are in the path of totality, my friend. So as far as before we get into the Aquarius energy of this eclipse, I always want to give you my little spiel as a witch, as a cosmic witch, about eclipse energy. I will never stop coming across this big foreboding, fear-mongering energy around eclipses and yes to practice or not to practice and don't do ritual work or yes, do it, get your crystals out of the window or throw them, whatever it is. Let me offer you this. First of all, when it comes to eclipses, no matter what, but especially an eclipse in Aquarius where we have Uranus as a co-ruler of the eclipse, Uranus is a co-ruler of Aquarius, we can for sure expect the unexpected. Just go into eclipses knowing that. First of all, it's very helpful mental preparation and energetic preparation. We can expect the unexpected, and we might even have that volume turned up a little bit because this is in Aquarius, and Uranus, our big, bold lightning striker, right, our revolutionary, is a ruler of this eclipse, so it might be even a little extra unpredictable. Secondly, instead of getting wrapped up in should you do anything for the eclipse or not do anything for the eclipse, might I offer an alternative approach? What if instead of should I or shouldn't I, what if you just used and tapped into the heightened sensitivities that we already are in during eclipse time and tap in with yourself and ask what you are uniquely needing at this eclipse? Or any eclipse for that matter. Now, I want you to remember that nervous system is going to be highly activated by this particular eclipse because it's in our air sign of Aquarius, and air equals our mental capacities, okay? So our brain is taking a lot in. We are taking in a lot of stimulation, for example. Also, since this is a new moon solar eclipse in our revolutionary Aquarius, what are even small actions you can take during this eclipse season that plant seeds of progress for the future of humanity? And I'll be honest, that sentence really typed itself. And when I say it typed itself, I mean, my fingers kind of moved and then I read the sentence afterwards and was like, okay. The gods have spoken. So seriously, this is a great opportunity. Small actions you can take that plant seeds for the future progress of humanity. There's lots out there, my friend. Do your research. That is a wonderful small action. Do your research and don't take everything through the same singular source. Listen to multiple voices on social media. Look at multiple media outlets, big and small. Compare and contrast differences there. Make sure that you're really vetting your charitable organizations. There can be shitty people out there, okay, that love to use horrific and tragic times to literally capitalize off of it, okay? So always vet any organization, any place that you're sending any of your money, your time, or your resources, okay? However, I do want to say there are lots and lots out there. There are always organizations of all kinds that can use our help, whether it's directly related to what's going on in Minneapolis and throughout the country right now with this ICE bullshit. And there are tons of other causes on top of that even, okay? How can you help out families in Gaza right now? How can you help out kids in your local community? Are there food pantries that you could start donating to? There's all kinds of organizations set up that constantly need our help. So yes, look to the big ones that people are talking about. And don't forget that any type of seed planted to help the future progress of humanity is not taken lightly right now, okay? Keep that in mind. We will be in eclipse season after this eclipse. The next one is going to be on March 3rd. We'll talk about that when we get there, but do know that once we cross over into this eclipse, we're going to be in the eclipse portal for a couple of weeks, okay? So things are going, again, expect the unexpected. Now, this brings us into the second half of February and thus begins Pisces season when the sun moves into the sign of Pisces on February 18th. When the sun moves into Pisces, the sun, the ever bright, shining cosmic flashlight of truth. The sun in the numinous is known as being, okay? So we've got words like essence, energy, self-awareness, life force, okay? This is the core essence of who you are and your purpose in this specific life incarnation, okay? So when we're talking about the sun for all of us as a collective, it's our collective purpose for this life right here, right now, okay? The sun card visually, we've got the big, beautiful golden sun in the back, which is actually an image of a sunset. It's just in the shape of a sun. But it's actually a cutout image of a sunset. And then we've got all around it are these, I feel like they're borderlining between these soft looking like fireworks, but they also really mainly to me resemble dandelions once they, reach the end of their cycle and you can kind of blow all their seeds in the wind. And then we also have an egg shell, and it's almost like the imagery here is all part of the yolk, which makes lots of sense with that sunny egg yolk that we see. And then we also have a big anatomical heart here. Sun and solar energy is very, very, very associated with the heart. And again, think of that driving life force, that sense of inner purpose. So when the sun goes into Pisces, we definitely illuminate our emotional centers. We illuminate our imagination, our sense of childlike wonder and dreaming and play. And again, we're kind of turning up the notch on this concept around nonverbal communication. It is important to note here that all of Pisces season will contain Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So we mentioned at the beginning that Mercury is going to move into Pisces on February 6th this week. And then on February 26th, so about a week or so after Pisces season begins, Mercury will officially station retrograde in Pisces. This entire retrograde cycle will be in the sign of Pisces and only Pisces. So Mercury's not going to dip back so far that it goes back into Aquarius, for example. This Mercury retrograde happens all throughout Pisces season while the sun's in Pisces, and Mercury itself is going to be retrograde in Pisces as well. And remember that we talked about how Mercury has to find some different alternative methods for expressing itself and fulfilling its own purpose of learning and communication and interaction, everything we talked about. It has to find some alternative ways of doing that while it's in Pisces. It's considered to be in its fall in Pisces. And then on top of that, we've got the retrograde aspect of this. So retrogrades are this opportunity to pause, if not fully come to a stop, to rest, reset, review, reevaluate, reconsider, and therefore reconstruct and redefine. So this could for sure, especially for some of us, this definitely can look like, an extra tough time for communication. Feeling like you're really able to express yourself and articulate your thoughts and your feelings and your own experience. And it can also be a time that I think because of the Piscean nature, we might feel a little easier to kind of fall into that slower pace of a retrograde, to slow down, to pause, to even stop, to rest, like we talked about. So that part might be a little bit on our side. But again, depending on where Pisces is at in your chart, where your Mercury is, the way that your chart is set up, this can be a time that feels particularly frustrating. And it can also be a time that you might feel more on your game. You might feel like you're even better at expressing yourself. You might feel like you're heard even more, or even bigger than that, you might feel more understood. Again, this really depends on different parts of the chart. For example, if you have planets in retrograde that you were born with, especially Mercury retrograde might land a little different for you than it does for others that don't have retrograde planets or weren't born under a Mercury retrograde. Depending on where Pisces is at or placements you have in other signs that kind of collaborate well with Pisces, again, you might find that this is a time where you're like, I actually kind of feel on my game. I feel a little bit more understood. I feel like I'm a little bit better at articulating my needs and understanding the needs of others. So pay attention this Pisces season. That's what I have to offer you. Pay attention. Also, I want to offer you this. What would happen if you looked at each mistake, each mishap as something with a message of meaning that it carries for you? Even silly meaning. I find that especially the mishaps of Mercury retrograde tend to be well coped with through our beautiful gift and superpower, which is our sense of humor and our wit and our ability to just not take ourselves too seriously and to laugh it off with ourselves or with others. And Pisces having that kind of childlike mystic within it can help us be a little more willing to be ridiculous or to laugh something off as being silly. And obviously, Pisces also has this reputation for being particularly sensitive and maybe even like crybabies. I'm allowed to say that because I have a Pisces moon and I am very much a crybaby. So we can see these heightened sensitivities and it might kind of add to the overwhelm. But this also might be a time for really, really leaning into letting it roll off your back, or maybe seeing this as a moment of what is the universe offering me with this? You don't necessarily have to look at every single thing like a lesson. Sometimes that can also feel a little daunting. That can also feel a little bit like, Jesus, I'm always looking at, everything that happens to me in my life as this sign of something I'm not doing right and I need to do better. So sometimes looking at everything like a cosmic lesson can also be a lot. But What we could perhaps do is look at the ways that the universe also has its own sense of humor and its own way of being silly and rolling through mishaps and mistakes. And later on, kind of looking back and going, was that actually a mistake? In the words of our dear friend, Bob Ross, happy little accident might be a helpful little piece of medicine for us to take into this Pisces season and this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So Mercury retrograde will begin on February 26th, and it will stay retrograde until March 20th, which is also the very first day of Aries season. So again, literally, we've got Mercury retrograde cycle pretty much perfectly just within this Pisces season cycle as well. So if it were me, I would head into this Pisces season looking for ways to be lighthearted where I can, because I know that I'm going to be feeling a lot. I know I'm going to be feeling deeply. I know that there's going to be plenty of emotion and plenty of heaviness and sorrow. And that's just given the nature of the world that we're in right now, the society that we're in Western society and US society. And I do think that there are ways to use astrology as a tool for coping in a healthy way, to get through things one day at a time, to express and release really big, really difficult emotions and thoughts as they come up, and all as a means for growth, progress, crossing over, crossing through, getting to the other side, and being all the wiser in spite of that. So, quite a month, February. At this point, I dance between fear and unsurety at the future, plenty of days, and also total wonder and curiosity. And I'm kind of just letting myself dance between those two mental states, depending on the day, depending on the time, depending on what's going on. Please do remember to ground, my friend. Please remember to ground extra this Pisces season as it comes up. And also be there for each other and the people who need it most. Remember that there's this fine line between surrendering and resting and escaping and numbing. And especially to all my sober friends out there, pals in recovery, Pisces season can be a very common season, truth be told, for relapse or the temptation or urge to use again, honestly, because of this escaping and numbing. Surrendering and resting can start rolling into this escaping and hopelessness, and therefore this numbing place. And I want you to know that no matter who you are and no matter what of anything that you struggle with, whether that is something like addiction or anything outside of that, just something that you carry with you and you battle and you work and you fight really hard for, you are not alone at all. If there is one thing that Pisces also really brings us, it is a sense of connectedness, and there is support, and there is connection, and there is community out there. And especially for those of you looking for safe and welcoming, friendly, aligned with your personal values and ethics, witchy community, we have that in That Witch School. Remember that Witch School is this beautiful treasure trove of a library of all kinds of amazing and incredible resources we've added over the years. But at its core, it is a community platform. It is a place for connection. It's a place for networking. It's a place for building your people, your group, your family, your chosen family, your coven, whatever that is, that, you know, that term that you use that fits right for you. Some people like the coven thing, some people don't. If you're curious about that, by the way, we also have an episode on should you join a coven or do you need a coven? We talk all about the use of the word coven. So you can always check that out if you haven't as well. But do know that you have friendly, welcoming, safe space with us in that witch school. I can personally attest to the incredible souls of support and magic inside of our Mighty Networks platform. And also, if you ever have any questions, by the way, about that witch school and Mighty Networks or the subscription options or the features that everything comes with, I am always just a quick message away. I'm always right next door. You can go to the show notes below to grab my contact information and submit an inquiry, and I will always do my very best to help point you in the right direction and give you the information that you're looking for. I have to say, it felt absolutely wonderful to be back here at the first Moonday of the month with you again, our first Moonday of the month of the calendar year. And I love our Cosmic Monthly Overview. Remember, we have journal guide templates for our first Moonday of the Month episode, as well as our last Moonday of the Month episode. Those are always linked in the show notes below so that you can get them. They're totally free to you to download and print or to screenshot or save somewhere for yourself digitally. They can really help you get the most out of these episodes so it doesn't feel as much like all of this astrological and dates information coming at you. It kind of helps walk you through different options for how you can plant seeds of this information throughout your life, throughout this month, so that as these astrological transits come to pass, we are stepping through them with mindfulness and intention together. My friend, my neighbor, thank you for your time today and every day. It means the absolute world to me. And I hope that you know, if you don't already realize, it means the absolute world to your other neighbors as well. This is a pretty friggin' amazing neighborhood we have with each other here. Until I see you next time, make sure that you're out there, staying safe. Don't ever, ever, ever stop letting yourselves have fun. Take care of each other. And of course, stay magical out there. If you enjoyed today's episode, if you learned something, or you just love that witch podcast, one of the best things that you can do is share the show with a friend. Just by reaching out and sharing a link or recommending us to somebody is hands down the best way to help us grow our podcast here. So you can head right now into the podcast app that you're listening to, and you can directly share this episode by using your little share link button, or you can just take a screenshot or just mention that witch podcast to whoever you're recommending us to, because you can find that witch podcast on all major podcast listening platforms. Thanks for being such a great neighbor.